So what we're going to do now, we're just going to do a little analysis of a track. So I thought you might like Noisia, probably. Who likes Noisia? Excellent. Yeah. I couldn't believe it when I first heard STIGMA a little while ago, because I hadn't listened to drum and bass for a while, and I just couldn't believe the production and it was just amazing. So it's nice to try and analyse it as well. I'm not going to go into like huge amounts of detail, but just some of the little melodies that they use, because you can get sort of too into the analysis, but it should be, I think it would be useful even for people who are used to theory. So you can see there, they use lots of semitones. They don't necessarily just use a minor scale, like this track is in G minor. So there's a bit of G minor. So you wouldn't really catch Noisia, going. Which you might get, sometimes you get maybe that at the beginning of a pendulum track, so you might get that kind of thing. Because they're a bit more cheeky with their melodies and stuff. You know what I'm talking about. So they often use, I don't know if they use actual scale, I don't know if they think in scales necessarily, but there's two ways of doing it, I think. You can either play the note and then listen to the interval, and by ear work out which intervals you want to use. So they could go and just use semitones, which would be. But that sounds a bit too much, doesn't it? If you wrote a melody based on that. It's a bit sort of confusing, a bit, sounds a bit horrible. So what they've done is they've done a semitone interval, and then a tone interval, and then a semitone. So they've still got two semitones, so you've still got the pretty dark sound, but they've got the tone in the middle that sort of takes the edge off. So that's the second melody you can see there. B, down to a semitone, B flat, down a tone to A flat, and then G. So they've got this sort of sound, which you can hear has got lots of sort of, it sort of evokes a few things, doesn't it? It's got a slightly kind of eerie, sort of, almost like, it's almost got like a Middle Eastern twang to it as well. And then the first melody, G down to F, so it's down a tone, and then A flat, which is up a semitone from G. So you've still got that same sort of dark sound. Third melody, it's just a semitone. So that's quite interesting, as I've mentioned at the end. It's the texture of the sound that kind of makes it. Because obviously if I just played a piano, it just went like that for a while. It wouldn't really have much of an effect. So they use these huge textured sounds which have lots of little resonances, and they've almost got kind of extra notes in them. So it's a bit like they're playing chords almost, but if you listen to it, it's actually just two notes, just G to A flat, which we'll listen to in a minute. And then the fourth melody, a little bit more complicated. G, upper semitone, down again, and then up to B. So you've got the semitone at the beginning, and then you've got up to B, down a semitone. And then all they do is take that melody and play everything a semitone higher. So you go. So you can see it's kind of simple and sort of quite clever at the same time. It's the kind of thing I would have thought, why didn't I think of that sort of thing? Because I'd probably do something that had so many notes in it, nobody would want to listen to it. So let's have a listen. Here's the first melody. the second melody. I know, I'll just leave it on loop and then I can have to sit down for a while. Yeah, it's kind of, I was actually only going to play the first bit of the melody, but I didn't want to stop it. What's that? Yeah, sorry, yeah. I should just play it through. Yeah, so that's that melody I was talking about. So that's quite interesting. That's the one I was telling you about. What's that? I just hear little voices coming out from the darkness. Oh, right. Does it sound good? Oh. It sounds good from here. Okay. It's nice and crunchy though, isn't it? So I think, if you listen to that, it sounds like in the melody there's loads going on. But it's actually basically just two notes. So it's more to do with the texture of the sound and the rhythm. So it's going back and forth and stopping, it's all chopped up. So it sounds like loads of notes basically, but that's only basically two notes. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And then the last melody, which is that little one I said that was transposed up a semitone. Whoops. Sorry, that's a bit. I forgot to do the fade out for that one. Yeah, so there's that little semitone melody I was telling you about. So you've got semitone at the beginning, then back, then it goes up 4 semitones.
Could you do it on the piano roll?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Okay. Let's make it a bit bigger. Yeah. So it goes up a semitone. It's in G minor. So there's a G there. Up a semitone. Back down. Up 4 semitones. So you've got a semitone interval. Back down a semitone interval. And then up 4 semitones, which is a major third. So basically, this whole melody is either a semitone or a major third, which is 4 semitones. So you've got a mixture of the really sharp sound and then this nice sort of major sound. So obviously, if I played that on its own, it's got a really nice major sound. And when you mix it with the semitones, you get a mixture of everything, which is a really nice flavour. And then the whole melody just goes up a semitone, but it's still the same jumps. So A flat, up a semitone, back down, up 4 semitones. So it's still the same jumps, but it's changed key just very slightly. So I think that's everything for that. I've sort of maybe have gone over it a bit too much, but I'm just trying to get across the fact that it's listening to the sounds of the intervals without even knowing the scale and combining them you can get all these different sort of colours and emotional effects and stuff.
Why does it start with G minor? Why is it called a G minor?
And that's a good question, because it actually, although it's in the key of G minor, so if you play a G throughout the whole piece, it sort of sounds like, it's like the home note. So it sounds like it always goes back to a G. And it's in a minor key, so it's this scale actually, I've got it up here. Whoops. There we go. So G minor, G, A sharp or B flat, C, D sharp or E flat, F, G. So most of those notes will fit, but what they've done is added this A flat into the scale, which isn't in the key. The key of G minor is B flat and E flat, so it's just two flats. It's got sharps written on there, but it doesn't matter if you call them sharps or flats, but G minor is a flat key. So they've added a note to the key, and like I say, I don't know if they've done it because they've listened to intervals, they want the semitone effect, or whether they've actually used a different scale. For example, there's one called the G altered scale, which goes like this. So it's kind of similar to G minor, but it's got this extra note. So they might have done that. They might have just learned lots of different scales from other than the major and the minor. Because what you'll find is like music theory and particularly jazz, but music theory in general, when you start looking into it, it's suddenly this kind of infinite library of things opens up. It's sort of, well, yeah, it goes on forever basically. So maybe when you first do it, you've got the major key and the minor key and major chords, minor chords, and then you look into it and you realise there's seventh chords and ninth chords, and then you realise there's other scales, and there's scales all over the world and all this sort of stuff. So James actually was telling me that one of the guys from Noisia is a classical, or used to be a classical musician or a classical pianist. So, they might have learnt the altered scale, say, or they might have learnt some Middle Eastern scales and mixed those in as well. So that's something to sort of look into. Like I say, it can be like infinite, but you can sort of pick and choose a few and then get used to using them. I found when I started learning jazz, I was just like, I almost wanted to not do it because there were so many possibilities. I almost couldn't sort of work out how to use any of them. But then I found after a few weeks it sort of settled down and I could be a bit more selective. So yeah. I think I answered your question a bit too much now. Have you seen that? He's left. Okay. Let's move on then. Massive Attack we're going to do now.